in producing social content. One thing I want to mention before I get started is that Descript, while it is an extremely powerful tool, it is a tool that spans across multiple use cases and workflows. Today, we're going to be specifically looking at creating content or repurposing content or editing content from an existing video clip or a newly recorded one. But that doesn't mean that you can't record with your mobile device or utilize AI-generated visuals or speech. We have a plethora of content, but this session will be focused on adjusting an existing audio or video track to create a social clip from there. But the biggest thing with Descript is that you don't have to worry about messing with a complex tool set like timeline editors or NLEs, as they're commonly known. Descript is a text-based editor that allows for you to edit your video or audio based on the transcription rather than a waveform in the timeline. With Descript, just as a higher concept, we're a tool that allows you to kind of gather media and rework or re-edit it, right? So this can be a short form video, like I'm recording myself doing a demonstration or an instructional video, or even a showcase for a product. That can be all the way to a long form video where I'm taking a webinar showing something instead of just a short form and bringing that into one editing space. Right now, we have plenty of users that are taking 15-hour editing cycles down to 30 minutes with a couple of our quick AI actions. But again, the main thing with it is that we're not having to go into a more labor-intensive tool that requires timeline editing or major knowledge of multimedia editing. We're utilizing tools that seem similar, like Word doc editing or slide deck editing that we'll look at, that feel familiar to people. That doesn't matter where you're coming from. The idea is if you can edit in a Word doc, you can edit inside of Descript. Currently, Descript transcribes your recording. I mentioned transcript-based editing a moment ago. What we do is we transcribe everything from the video or audio that you're providing and allow you to edit the text, which edits the underlying video and audio. That's where we got started as an audio tool back in 2018. But since then, we've added a few AI assist features. So throughout the session, you'll hear me talk about our AI tools. We'll look at creating clips specifically as one. But you'll also hear me speak about Underlord, which is our AI editing assistant. Our CEO came up with the name, so pardon that piece. But you'll see that not only with text editing, which is familiar to people who edit in Word docs, but with other tools like AI interaction or LLM prompting, we can edit in that same kind of way and again, get that faster output more consistently with existing content instead of needing to create something net new. Like I mentioned here, we have a couple different things that can be done, but Descript, today we're gonna be looking at creating a social clip. You can do things like clean up a recording or creating a highlight reel, again, from multiple sources. I am gonna show one feature that is my personal favorite and the reason that I work here. Before I worked at Descript, I was a freelance podcast editor, like I mentioned, but I used Descript as a tool. There's one feature here called remove filler words. You'll hear me throughout the session say and literally probably 1,000 times. And with a couple of clicks, we can remove filler words or remove pauses or remove retakes if you're recording something from a transcription or something from a teleprompter. But we can also utilize clip creation. I'm looking at the chat and I'm very they put me in front of the camera for these because I am a passionate user. I really enjoy using this tool. So I'll try to skim through the rest of these so we can get to the meat and potatoes. But again, this is like a really fun tool and like a one that is not hard. Like the barrier of entry is extremely low in my personal opinion. But again, we can see here, you'll bring in your content, audio or video, or you can record directly in. We have a recorder, even a remote recorder, if you want to do a Zoom style call. You'll pick your template. Templates are what we call like prompt templates, saved repeatable actions that can be done to your brand specifications or to a general editor. Underlord, our AI editor, will take that prompt and make a first pass edit. And then you get to jump in at the very end and make those final passes and confirm that your AI assistant did great, or you manually adjusted this to your heart's content and removed those filler words or those pauses or ums and ahs. And then the main thing as well is once you have these actions down, right? Once you have a saved template for yourself, I mentioned a moment ago, having something for your brand. Part of my primary role is aiding people in creating a repeatable prompt or a repeatable visual template that can be actioned on at any video. So whether you're, sending one person out with their iPhone or you have the full fancy camera gear out there taking a news report, we can ingest that media, reuse the same kind of visuals and actions to get you that same output so that you can stay consistent in your posting cadence, right? While we don't handle like the output of the post, we make sure that the content that you are posting is quickly accessible and easy to edit. One last thing I mentioned here is because I asked Paul for a list of like the types of people that would be interacting here, and I saw everything from real estate agents to content creators. And one thing that like I want to make sure of is that like if you have existing content, if you have yourself recorded, it can be something basic like a voice memo to your peer, or something more in depth like a message to a customer or to a client. But if you have that audio recorded, you can do something with it. It's not just a one and done. It can be eternally repurposed and used as an additional source for content creation, whether again it's brand new or AI assisted. So with all of that out of the way, let me jump over to this next tab, and we'll look now at Descript. So I'm going to do a quick once over of the UI so we have an idea of where things are, and then from there we'll go into the specific like creating clips use case. But what we're seeing here is the Descript project. Currently, we're looking at a project that I already recorded into Descript. We have a nice little studio here in San Francisco in our home office where I'm currently located. But here is a recording that I made of myself in said studio, edited down to a social content or to a shorter form clip. This original recording was about 15 minutes of me messing up my line or saying something or like kind of just fumbling over my script. But we were able to trim this down both with manual edits and with AI assist clip creation to about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So taking this, me tripping over myself while reading a script down to a cohesive and stylized visual output that can be even further compressed for a TikTok or a social clip. But what I'll show here on the left-hand side is our transcription. So like I mentioned, when we import or record anything into Descript, we'll see the full transcription here on the left-hand side. I'm going to play this back. Please let me know in the chat if you can or can't hear this. I just want to make sure we can. But you'll notice as I play, each word is going to be highlighted karaoke style as I say it. Let's check this back.
Welcome back to another episode of Marcello Explains. Today, I'm super excited to dive into a tool that's going to change the way that you edit and record media. Today, we're talking about Descript.
Cool. So there's an example of how we are, as you can see on the left-hand side, transcribing each word that I am saying, displaying it on the left-hand side, and aligning when I say it to what is said. With this alignment, we're able to make adjustments to the video based on the text. So let's say here in this video, I want to jump right to where I say, today I'm super excited to dive into a tool. And I don't want to include, welcome back to another episode of Marcello Explains. I'm going to just select all that text. I'm going to click delete on my keyboard, and that part of the video is gone. I'm jumping now right to where I say, today I'm super excited to dive into a tool.
Today, I'm super excited to dive into a tool that's going to change the way that you edit and record media.
Now, this is far beyond easier than a lot of the other timeline tools that I interact with. And just to show, under the hood, Descript still has a timeline editor that you would see in, your Adobe Premieres or your Final Cut Pros or iMovie, whatever, media editor you choose. So if you want to approach it as a timeline editor, you can do so. But I think the benefit with Descript is, especially with narrative content, you do not at all have to use a timeline. We can collapse this entirely, and I can still edit everything entirely from the script. I'm even seeing some of the visualizations of other elements in the script, like thumbnails that can show me I can change visuals. If I had any music tracks, they would be represented here by a little music note in my script. But again, the idea is that without needing to learn a timeline editing tool, I can quickly edit and get that narrative passed down with Descript. That's really, really cool that we can do that narrative edit. I think it's really great that we give the ability for people to edit. Again, if you know how to edit a Word doc, you can edit in Descript is the idea. But let's say we've edited this down and we know, hey, this is a great piece of content. We're ready to take this and, create a social clip from this, or this is our trimmed down clip we want to generate further. We're looking primarily here in the script area, but on the very right-hand side of the tool, we'll see AI tools. AI tools and Underlord, like I mentioned, are going to be carrying a majority of the weight of our editing. The main piece of text editing or getting that narrative pass is going to be that human interaction on the left-hand side. But once we're ready to generate clips from this, we'll go to our AI tools and we'll go to our repurpose section. Now, there's plenty of tools under AI tools. Here, just to break down the 5 sections, there's sound good, look good, repurpose, publish, and write. Again, we'll be focusing kind of on the repurpose section of things, but I did want to mention that like under sound good, there are things like generate audio. So you can generate background music from scratch. Here's that remove retakes or remove filler words feature I showed. I just want to really quickly show that in practice. Here, if I go to remove filler words, it can identify all of the filler words in my script. Here's a list of all of the filler words that are captured, as well as when they are said. Again, I am not media trained. I'm not a professional public speaker by any means. So there will be plenty of times that I use ums and uhs and suppose. And as part of our upper tier plans as well, we recognize repeat words. Sometimes I say the word literally, and while that's not a filler word, it's not really the right word for the scenario. So all of this trimming allows us to get a really succinct social clip by removing any clutter, any verbal snafu per se. But that's our sound good section for filler words. I would encourage everyone here to give that a try. Under look good, same kind of thing. Here I'm reading off a teleprompter. In this, I use eye contact, which is a tool that snaps your eyes to the camera. A lot of times in social clips, I might skip through. I might scroll past a social clip if someone is not looking directly to camera or conducting themselves like in that camera sense, right? So we can utilize eye contact or center active speaker to make sure you're centered in frame and looking directly to camera, so that no matter if you're reading off a teleprompter or not, that social clip still looks professional out the gate. But now to my favorite parts. Here under repurpose, we have our create clips feature. Again, we'll have highlight reels and find highlights, but create clips is what we're going to utilize to change this long form video into a bite-sized YouTube short, Instagram reel, or TikTok. I'll click create clips here. And now we're presented with this modal. On the right-hand side, we'll see that we have the ability to select the number of clips that we'll create. So here I'm just going to put in like 5 clips. Here we can also see the clip duration. I say I want each clip to be about 30 seconds. Here we'll skip over layouts for 1 second, but here at the bottom I have topic. Here's where I can choose, hey, I want something to be about, in this conversation I'm talking about Descript. So here I'll put editing in Descript as a topic. If you leave it as blank, it will look at an algorithm that's looking at like the most viral or current trending topics and try to find something similar. But if you have something in mind for your content, you can absolutely import that into the topic area. Now, right above the topic, we have layout. Layouts inside of Descript are like visual templates. So the layout is what we would choose to reframe our visuals from this purple / landscaped image on the center of the screen into a social clip in portrait mode or in portrait orientation. We can do that by selecting a layout here on the right-hand side. And these layouts can automatically reframe my video. So I can take something from portrait to landscape, landscape to portrait, whatever I so choose, but I can utilize these default visual guides that Descript has. I mentioned earlier that you can also do things based on your brand or your style. You can create custom layout packs, but we do have default ones that are available for anybody if you want a good starting point. And I'll show in a short moment that you can save any of those layouts so that if you make any adjustments to that layout, you can save that for your future use. And again, get that repeatable and quick action visual guide to your ever-changing narrative content. But here, just stylistically, I really like the Berlin Carrot Dark and the Helsinki Blueberry layouts. Those are just like visually my favorites. But I'll click Berlin Carrot Dark, and we'll see here a couple of options for visual framing. Again, for the speed of your social clip, it is easiest to have a bunch of preset visuals or layouts so that you can quickly choose and say, hey, I have my narrative down. Now, how do I want it to look? Because my talk track is there. How does my visual track look? Here, I could choose to pick a layout. If I scroll a little bit further down, here's some additional layouts that are in different aspect ratios. So I can choose a social clip here that has big captions. This will reframe my video and apply large styled captions in this orange and black styling. Again, that orange and black can be stylized to your brand standards, but the idea here is that with a single click or a couple of clicks, we are ending up with a stylized piece of content rather than that raw recording that we started with. Here, I also see a bunch of presets for either two-ups, so if I'm doing an interview, or if I want to do any kind of stylized piece like speaker intros, or any of the like outro socials where you would have your call to action to have them follow you post the recording. But again, any of these layouts can be selected. For the moment, I'll just pick kind of a basic one with captions and the name at the bottom. Once I click submit, now our AI is going to skim through the script and try to find anything that matches the topic that I entered. If I left it blank, it would be looking for more generalized content. But here on the right-hand side, in the time it took me to describe what it's doing, it's selected to me 3 different clips that I can look at and approve or alter if I so choose. Here is the first clip.
There's nothing worse than going through a whole educational video or screen recording and realizing your microphone wasn't turned on. That's happened to me when I started recording this video.
I love finding that clip. And then here at the bottom, we can see show name. Here I can add my show name or just add the speaker name. So these are not only are auto-filled for the captions, but let you manually fill for any of the titles, show titles, follow tags, anything along those lines. So I think it's one cool thing with Descript is that it's a marriage of automation and manual interaction. As a creative, I don't want to be swapped out entirely by a bot. So I love the times that I'm able to manually adjust or take that creative control. That's why I think like the layouts are such a great way to express your brand standards or your brand requirements. As the creative, can go in there and set my, orange captions or my purple background or my specific fonts for my color, my logo of my company on the bottom right, top left, whatever it may be, right? But once I have those visuals set as the creative, now I can say, okay, AI, now go find the good clip for me. Or I can manually find that and create a social clip as well. But with these AI assist tools, I think the benefit comes from us being the creative piece and then allowing AI to find those special moments that might be viral worthy. Because while I'm online a lot, I am not sure what would go trendy right now on TikTok. But again, here are those different aspects. And then on the right-hand side, we'll see the suggested title, the duration of the clip, the star rating or how close it was to my initial request. And then here I have the option to change the layout. So if I liked this clip, but I didn't like the visuals, I can still go in after the fact. And like I mentioned, we still have that creative control. So even though we have the clip itself, we have like the narrative element of the clip, we can still override the visual content at any point. I hope this is exciting to me. Also, apologies if you can hear this. They're watching the World Cup right outside the office window. All right, cool. So here we have, again, all those clips. If I click done, I'll now have on the right-hand side under my projects tab, a folder of clips. So as Descript is a non-destructive editor, we are retaining the original video. So I haven't altered or removed the original video. I've retained that original cut. So I can maybe post that out as a long form element on YouTube or just keep that for historical or archival reasons. But now I have a folder created with all 5 of those clips that I can see independently and export independently as their own social clips. Here I can take them each to their own social media, or we have an option under export here to go right to YouTube. So we can export directly to that social network, or if you have other ones, we have a list of some other options here, but there's some good examples of our export options once you have your clip edited. Now, one last thing I wanted to show as well, because we looked at AI tools, and these are some good quick actions, but sorry, they were just saying about the goal they have. Okay, cool. So we have these AI tools. We looked at create clips and repurposing these AI tools or these AI clips, right? What we want to do is we want to maybe go a layer deeper. Here with create clips, we're just kind of being suggested what might be popular. I'm giving a light reading of edit Descript, but I want to go more in depth. I want to find some specific moments. What we can use is we can use our AI tool Underlord. Underlord being the AI editing assistant, Underlord has access to all of the features that I've shown thus far and then some. I mentioned earlier, Descript is as easy to edit as like a Word doc or a Google doc. Think of Underlord as easy to interact with as an LLM, like a ChatGPT or a Claude. So here I can ask the agent to take specific actions, just like I would ask a junior editor. Something like, hey, can you find good background music for this video? Right, some prompt like that. But what's more important and what's very similar to our AI tools is here we have the option to start with a prompt template. This is what I was mentioning earlier with some of our templating or saved prompts. But here with Underlord, we have a list of prompts that are created by the team that made Underlord. So all of these prompts you can utilize to create content from. With AI tools, you kind of get like an introductory or a scratch the surface kind of clip creation. But with Underlord, you can go that much further and provide additional context that you're unable to do with AI tools. For example, like when I'm looking for a clip, I'm not just looking for times I edit with Descript. Sometimes I'm looking for times where like I am, as the speaker, am excited. Or if I have 2 speakers, like in this session today, Paul and myself, I might want to like go through and find clips where only Marcello is speaking because I might not want to see what Paul is suggesting or vice versa, right? With Underlord, we have the ability to specify to a deeper extent what we're looking for, as well as provide specifics on brand standards, layouts, or again, like aspect ratios. So to show this as an example, I'll use this prompt template. Here, if I click use template on the right-hand side, we are just like I would interact with an LLM. create a prompt. And then here, Underlord will go back and forth with me to edit this video. Initially, it's asking what's my aspect ratio and showing me what kind of socials that I would post each aspect ratio to. I'm showing this because, again, at the very beginning, I mentioned that Descript is easier to use than some official timeline tools, where we have this text-based editor that you can interact with and get your narrative edits down. But even further to that, if people are comfortable, like with the AI that space that is taking over, if you are more comfortable with prompt manipulation, or you have more familiarity with talking to an LLM than you do editing a Word doc, we have different ways for you to interact with the tool. So if you wanted to manually select a clip, I can find something in my script, select that, and then generate a clip from here. Or I can utilize the AI assist tools to find this in bulk across a large swath of media, and then again stylize it. So here I'll ask for a short. And like I mentioned earlier, I have my eyes on the chat. I've just thrown quite a bit of information at y'all. I would love if anyone has any questions in the chat. Feel free to drop them. I'd love to answer some of these if we have any ones. If not, I might iceberg them for later. But if you have questions on Underlord, please drop them. But I'm very curious if everyone could drop in the chat. Can everyone let me know what their familiarity is with video editing? Like, what's our current tool stack with video editors? And are we using anything similar to Descript or anything similar to Underlord? I like to think that we're one of the few on the market with this, but I'd be curious if there's any questions or if people finding any similarities to any other tools they're using currently. If not, no sweat, but just curious to drop that in here. While y'all are in the chat, we'll finish up with this Underlord piece and we'll show that finalized clip, and then I'll show a final export before we open up to a full Q&A. Here, let's say I want 5 clips. And then here it's asking me again for the brand colors or brand standards. So here I, at this point, would able to import my brand guidelines, or we have the ability to import content from your computer. So you can import like a one pager or a guideline for what you are wanting your visuals to align with. I'll continue with the Helsinki Blueberry one. Paul in the chat said, tried Descript editor before, super intuitive, have also used Apple's editor. Yeah, I just like peek behind the curtain. I used to be a genius at the Genius Bar at the Apple store. I would not call myself a genius, but that was my legal job title, so that's what I repeat. But the tools that we had at Apple were very solid and strong tools. But as they have developed, right, they've become more like industry standard and have become more complex. While there's still iMovie on my phone, I think there's still like a barrier of entry for some of those media editing tools, right? I think everyone's getting more comfortable with editing on their mobile devices, but I think like the main thing that I want to get across is that like Descript is really, really, really solid for people that like have never edited before and have content that they're looking to edit today. So that's my that's my semi-elevator pitch. Here, just to show as well with Underlord on the right-hand side, we have our style direction guide. This is where which you do not see in the AI tool piece, but this is where we can kind of further conduct the AI to provide us specific clips or specific styling. And then we can roll from there. One other thing as well is that we have multiple AI models like in the tool. So if you have a preference on AI model, you can absolutely select them. This is not something that you have to bring your own subscription. This is like included in the Descript plan. But again, this is where we can manage all of that like AI interaction and AI editing elements. Now, one thing I wanted to show as well is if we wanted to, once we have to the point where we know, hey, I'm using this same prompt or this same type of layout every time, I just wanted to show how we can save those layouts for future usage. So save those templates. So on the top right of the screen, we have this new template option. Here I can enter my full prompt and save this as well as label it. create a small description. I can provide a video preview as well. And then towards the bottom here, you have the ability to share them publicly. So if you are like we have a Descript Discord. If you're part of the Descript community, I'm already seeing people sharing their layouts inside of Descript, and we're having the ability soon to share templates or those underlord prompts as well. So strong community there. If you haven't taken it, I'll share some info on it after the fact. But if you have not already seen, our Discord is very, very active with a lot of passionate users and a lot of really good tips and tricks from the community as well as from our product team directly. So very, very, very solid elements there. Cool. So once we have finalized our editing, once we've gotten these clips that we saw from earlier and we're ready to export, and we get these out of the tool, on the top right of Descript, we can export video or audio. There are multiple places that you can host your video. Again, we have this YouTube option, but I did want to talk quickly about the Descript hosted webpage. Descript also has the ability to host video content. So if you are not wanting to post to socials, or if you're looking for a way for socials to scrape your post, you can publish a Descript hosted webpage. This functions the same as like a private Vimeo or YouTube video. So if I select publish here, this will publish the current video or the current clip so that I can share this out or save that video and post it to socials. Same idea here. If I have a local export, I can download the file locally and then distribute it to whatever platforms I see fit. And under the hood, we have the ability as well to add some additional audio specifications, formatting, any metadata. For some social networks that you are publishing to, sometimes they have a preference on bitrate and normalization. So please keep that in mind when you are publishing to socials. For like highest quality and optimal pieces, I would double check with the tools that you're publishing to. I know specifically for things like TikTok, they are looking at a 160 KB PS, I believe is their last posted. But again, check the resources for those teams to get specifics on that. But again, you can control all of that from your local export. Here you also have the ability to select a frame for the thumbnail of the video. You can upload a direct image for the thumbnail for when you're publishing, or you can utilize our AI text to image generation to generate a thumbnail for your content. That way you have full control of what the first impression of your video content is. And then just to show as well here, you have the ability to export one or all of the content. So we can do current composition, which is what we're looking at here, or all compositions, meaning all clips. So you can export one or both at the same time. All right. That was a lot of information at once, but that is the majority of what I've had to go through today. I'd love to open it up to some questions. I'm happy to take any from the chat. Like I mentioned, I can see the chat here on the bottom right-hand side, but I'm curious if anyone has any initial reactions or thoughts. I think the remove filler words is usually my favorite thing to show or to demonstrate, but that create clips feature as well is extremely, extremely quick and easy to utilize for editors. Last thing as well, if you wanted to see here, if you're looking to manually create a clip, you can do so by selecting text. And there is a duplicate to button here, which allows you to manually select. So if you know exactly where you want the clip to come from, rather than sourcing it through AI parsing, you can utilize the old, roll up the sleeves and manually select. But cool, I'll keep an eye on the chat. Feel free to drop any questions we have on here. Paul, how are we looking on time?
Marcello, I was actually also going to ask you, I know there is an option to actually add in, if you wanted to edit the text and then have it speak over that. I don't know if you want to voice that over.
Totally, yeah. So I see, and great question, Paul. So like I see this a little bit less with like clip creation, and just depending on the field for sure. But with Descript, the two extra things I would like to show here. One is just like you'll see these on-screen captions throughout the video. I can ask Underlord to add those, or there's a captions button here on the right-hand side. But let's say like I want to adjust maybe what was said, right? Even though I'm reading off my teleprompter, maybe I flub a line or two. Maybe like I just need to change what was said in the content. So here. I say, whether you're a seasoned editor or just starting out, maybe I want to say tenured instead, but I don't want to go back into the recording studio to re-record myself saying tenured. So what I'll do is I'll utilize Descript's text-to-speech feature, which allows me to type out something and have my AI voice speak what was typed. If I click regenerate here, I can now type in tenured. I'll click regenerate, and this will now use my pre-trained AI voice to say the word tenured. It will also change my lip movement to match what was said. So just keep in mind, thank you, Paul, for poking at that, because I was unsure if this would be something that the crowd would be into for this specific use case. But again, if you're looking to like scale content or repurpose it without going back into a recording studio, this is an extremely solid feature. I used to run the support team here at Descript, and every probably 3 weeks to 4 weeks, they changed the placement of a button that I really loved. And instead of going back to the recording studio to re-record, they moved the button to the top left or the top right. We used the regenerate feature to alter what was said by whom. But here we can see.
Whether you're a tenured editor or just starting out with recording, Descript is as easy as whatever is easiest for you.
This can be extrapolated to like the fullest extent, and I can have a fully AI generated script. Here's an example that I had. This is just an example from a prior demo, but like I did a product demonstration where I recorded myself and then I swapped myself out fully with my AI voice and my AI avatar. So we can go as far as AI avatars and as slow or like as low as like AI voices. But the idea with the script is that like if you have this content, like this script was me speaking into the voice memo on my phone. Then I went to Underlord and said, hey, here's my audio track. Here is my screenshot of the Descript application for you to use. Put these two together and make me a video. And just like that, in this case, I'm doing like a product demonstration, but extrapolate this to a social clip. You have your narrative talk track of your feature, of your product, of your service, whatever it may be. Then you can utilize B-roll or any of our like B-roll media here alongside with your AI voice to create a clip. You could start with an existing video like I did here, where I have a initial starting point video and then trim this down to a usable social clip like we saw here. But I think the idea with Descript is like, if you have media, you can do more with it. You can do a lot more with it. Is that with Underlord? Possibly. Is that with manual editing? Possibly. But Descript makes it easy for you to bring in media sources from anywhere of any type and manipulate them via text or via AI prompting. Been extremely powerful. And I just wanted to show one thing as well real quick. I just showed my AI voice to be super clear. There is no way for someone's voice to be recreated without them first reading this script. So we are very serious about AI and data privacy here at Descript. There is no way in this universe that anyone can use your voice unless you give them access. And they can't use my voice unless I read this consent statement. So if you are, I just give this monstrous disclaimer of like, hey, if you're going to do this, that's awesome. But just so you know, like we can't do it by itself. You have to accept and say like, hey, I want my voice to be recreated. So don't think that we're going to, reach into your account, make you say something crazy. Even if you have some peers, like I have a bunch of coworkers that are like, hey, let me borrow your voice. I have to manually share the voice here under this share tab and say, cool, here's my list of 5 that can take over my AI voice because I've said so. Again, just want to super harp on that because that is very important in my mind for data privacy and retention. Ben, I see you in the chat. I think I missed the part of doing my voice. This is where you can train that voice. So if I click new speaker on the top right, name the voice, and then click confirm. Here, now I can read the script. And then from there, I'll have my voice created. Same kind of idea. If I go back to like avatars, you can do so. Josh in the chat said, so you can take Descript and create the video from it easily. Yeah. I'm going to use that. Thank you, Josh. But absolutely, yeah. So the idea, and like just to show one last thing, I showed clip. We looked at the clip creation flow specifically, right? But I wanted to make clear that like Underlord opens the doors in so many directions. When you first log into your account here on the main homepage for Descript, here is Underlord right away that can help you create with an AI speaker like we just saw, or we can create like with our AI video maker. This allows you to drop in a script, upload an audio file, or generate from just a prompt. And then we also have the full repertoire of Underlord prompts here. So I can do anything from cleanup of recording to generate an AI video to rough cut my podcast to create a social clip. There's already a button for creating social clips or making explainer videos. So I would say the ceiling is very high. The world's your oyster, or whatever the phrase is here. But there's ones even down to like create a real estate listing video. There's a lot that Underlord can do. And if you don't see something here, the sky's the limit. Your prompt is the only thing that can hold you back. But I would say really for everyone in here, whether it is social clipping or if you're looking for anything in that same kind of vicinity, Underlord can carry you quite a bit of the way there. And with any AI tool, there's nothing that's going to get you from 0 to 100 magically with like one click of a button. The benefit of tools like this is that we have human intervention to make sure that the things that are output are to our standards as creatives and as owners of brands. But yeah, I could harp on that for like 2 days. I had a podcast for a while that we did not realize the brand vision as much as I thought we could, and now I have Descript, and I want to give that a second try because can be a lot cleaner. Cool. Any other questions, Paul? Anything else that you yeah, Paul in the chat says, can you speak to the best ways to get started and what's included in the trial version? Yes, absolutely. So if you head to web.descript.com right now, anybody, you'll get the free trial version of Descript. You have a certain number of transcription hours per month and a certain number of AI tokens to use for Underlord. On the free plan, that's refreshed once a month and is, I believe, like a minimal amount of transcription hours and credits. But that should get you enough to at least 1 to 2 videos out the way initially. Now, with that, like, you can absolutely, check out those free plans. But when you are looking at those plans, there should be an option for a trial in there. But whenever you're in there, on the bottom left of the homepage, like the main area of Descript, there is a tab called Learn Descript. Learn Descript is our resource that has like small bite-sized like learning content that can help you get started right away in Descript. Did I lose connection?
Nope, you're good.